I'm going to say it's probably safe to assume that's a bad coil. That should not have solder hanging out of it. You. Likely, it got fed power. That is just a ground tab. You ground that tab, it kills the coil. You don't need to feed these power. As soon as the magnet passes by here, make spark. That's why it's so easy to diagnose them. If you pull that wire off, crank the engine over, if it doesn't spark, it needs a coil. 99.99 repeating times out of 10. Anyways, let's see if I got one. I did grab one out of the shed. Wrong one, but I think that's Tecumseh. Huh, it is. It says Tecumseh right on it. I don't think I have one. I think I'll have to check again. We'll find out. Well, I wasn't going to pull the deck off, but I am now. Because I got to get to the blades, and it's nuts and bolts, and it's there's going to be probably 3 bolts that hold the thing together instead of the newer style, which is basically the blade just slides on a star, cutout star, and then one nut holds it on. This is all different, so there's a lot more tools required to get the blades off of this. I got to get a blade off to get the spindle out. It's very stiff and growly. The other side's growly. I've already got the 2 pins out of the opposite side. This one here, we're just going to pull this cotter pin out. Well, not a cotter pin, hairpin. Rusty. Front one's already off. Let me just wiggle them out. That one's out. Ka-ching! That's spring loaded. The lever on the other side is spring loaded up. And we should be able to slide this out. There she is. It's actually not in bad shape at all. Got some surface rust. I might hit that with some paint, make it look a little better. I don't think it's required. Oh, have a listen. Have a listen to that. That's bad. Yep. They need new ones. Flip her up. Let's have a look. Ooh, that's cruddy. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's get you. Good enough. You can see it. So we'll give that a scrape. Get the baling twine off of here. Scrape the rest of the deck out. That's what happens when you cut grass when the grass is wet. So this was this is your sharpened edge. It was actually about a 1/4 inch here and a 1/2 inch here, like straight. It's not now. The back sides is where the lift is, so that actually curves, and that curve is completely worn off. Both sides, both blades. Yeah. We're gonna get in there with a wrench to hold the nuts. So there's 2 bolts here and 1 bolt in the middle. The 1 bolt holds the blade to the blade adapter, which is splined onto the spindle. But, I mean, if it was new, we could take this bolt out and then everything would slide off. It's not going to be the case with this one. I recently did a video where I had to heat that with a torch and ended up breaking all the blade adapter apart to pieces trying to get it off. But we're going to try and get this one off, just taking the bolts out. So that's 9/16. These are 1/2. We'll need a 1/2 inch wrench on the back. A little impact gun. 1/2 inch. 9/16. 1/2 inch wrench. Little impact. Let's get the 9/16 off of there first. You never know. Somebody might have recently had this out and these adapters will slide off. Not likely. And no. Okay. Okay. Come on, wrench fit. There we go. So there's a nut and a lock washer in behind. Fine thread bolts for the high shoulder. Baling twine. Once this bolts out, then the blade should be able to come off. More baling twine. Come on. Oh. Lock washer, blade, bolt. Yep, those have seen better days. Yeah, I don't think we'll save them. Here's all our baling twine. Have to cut all that garbage off of there. There's that big spline. The blade adapter should slide off, but it's not gonna. A lot of heat, a little bit of a puller, and being gentle on stuff will get that apart, but we'll see how that goes when we get there. Let's get this other blade off of here. Just throw stuff around first. One. There's two. More blades for the scrap pile. That's no good. That's worse. Yeah. Now we can flip it back down. Turns out I'm going to do one side at a time because the mower is still on the lift table. Usually I would have the mower out of here and just start working on the deck, but I've ordered an ignition coil for that. So, should see that in a couple of days. But we got to get all this off of here anyway. There's a lot of it. These are rather small little spindles. And the last mower I did was the same style of deck, and I had to get a spindle for it. So, and they're available, so it's not going to be an issue. Okay, these are all studs down here, and they're captured in that plate. So the rest of the disassembly has to be done from the top. Hopefully that pulley slides off there easy. Let's get a 15/16 for that. Big nut on the top. Let's get you zoomed in a little. Nut, lock washer. There's that brake plate I was talking about earlier. That goes up underneath there. Oh, nice. Pulley flew right off. Beautiful. I fought with the last one like crazy. So that's nice that it came out like that. Should just be some 3 nuts on the top here, and then this top plate should come off. somebody has definitely been in here at some point, but there's that. Spindles coming out the bottom. Here we go. Yep, it's full of anti-seize, which is beautiful. But, however, the bearings are no good. You know what? I believe that spacer is supposed to be in between the bearings. There's our top bearing and our bottom bearing. I believe that spacer is supposed to be in between them so they don't go get jammed together too hard with the pulley once you hammer it down. I'll pull up an illustrated parts list on this deck at some point to verify, but I'm thinking that's an issue. Okay, I'm going to set it in the vise and beat on it so a little bit here and there and see if we can get things to move around. I'll do that off camera. Well, I'll do the first one off camera anyways. And I'll show you what I did. So I figured I'd show you how I'm going to get this done. So this was squished together. It was in the vise and I just started with a small chisel in between these two pieces here. That's a lower bearing cap and an upper bearing cap. Small chisel, and I just started to spread that apart, and then I'm just working it back and forth with a screwdriver now. And what it's doing is this cap is coming off the bearing. The bearing is still on the spindle shaft. So I'm just working it back and forth. Eventually this top plate will come right off, and the bearing will be still on the spindle shaft. Here we go. Top plate off. This bearing, she's stuck on the shaft. So the bearing has to slide off this way. Let's get it in the vise. See if we can give it some love taps on the top there. We'll hold this and we'll see if we can drive that shaft out through the bottom. Oh, the blade adapter came right off. That's handy. Just give it a wiggle and it came off. It's going to get lots of anti-seize on it before I put it back together anyway. So, let's see. Can we get that to move? No, not yet. Well, it might be moving because the bearing's freeing up, so. I see two bearings just shoved right together. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm going to have to get a parts list and have a look, see what it's supposed to look like here. I'm going to try the same trick. I'll get a small chisel in between the bearings there. I don't want to damage threads on anything. If I can help it. So sometimes it doesn't take much. Just a little bit of force applied in the right spot. Sometimes move them. It's getting looser, so yeah, the bearings are coming apart like they're separating. I'll keep working away at it anyways off camera, and we'll get them separated. Should just be a 6204 bearing. Yep, stock them. Alright, we'll be back when I get it apart. Alright, so we got it apart. Just wanted to just pop in here real quick and show you how it was done. I'm not going to put it all back together because it's pressed on, but so we were at this point and the shaft was all the way through. So what I did was I set the I know that this grass shield is separate than the rest of it. I knew that, so I set it in the vise like so. Let's get you zoomed in, you see a little better. So I had it set in the vise on this edge here, and what I did was I put the nut on the top of the shaft so we didn't wreck the threads. Got it set pretty well flush, pretty close. And then what I did was, here's another little trick or tip or whatever. Most people put the nut on there and then hit it with a hammer. Well, you can still damage things that way. The best way to do it is put your socket back on it and then hit the back of the socket. It doesn't damage anything. You're not going to get any mushrooming of the shaft or anything. So after I beat on it, actually, yeah, I had to hit it quite hard because it was pushing both bearings off at the same time. You can see there's no damage on that nut. It just slides right off. So that's that. The shaft now, everything comes apart. I have to put it on the wire wheel, and I will clean all these threads on the wire wheel, or not threads, splines. I'll clean that on the wire wheel. I'll make sure that this doesn't have any burrs in it. Make sure that's nice and clean. I'm going to just pound out these bearings, put them on the vise here, pound them out with a socket, put them back in with a socket, both sides, and then it'll be ready to go. Well, the one side's all done and figured out. It's all back together, actually. Pulley's back on. It spins nice and free. Well, it's got some resistance, which is normal on new bearings, so that's fine. And then I got this one off. This is pretty rotten. The bolts and the nuts are. The deck's okay, but I'm going to assume that's because there was grass and everything sitting on here for a long time, but I don't know. It's a half-inch spins on that one. Doesn't even think about grabbing this one, and there's nothing left here to put anything on. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'll take this bracket off. I've already got penetrating oil on the bolts. I'll take the bracket off. I'm just going to use an angle grinder with a cutting disc on it, and I'll just cut them off. These ones here I'll chop down vertical. I'll go vertical on them. It'll split that nut into two pieces, then I can just chisel it off and drive everything out. And these being studs is no big deal because I'll just press them out the other side of the other flange and I'll just put nuts and bolts in them. So it shouldn't be too much of a big deal to put it back together, but getting it apart is just going to be a little more adventurous. So let's see if we can get these off. Well, it spins, it's a good sign. Oh, that's one. Another bolt, fine thread. Reach under, get this one. Oh, can't even feel it. There's too much grass under there. Where the heck is it? Oh, found it. There's grass gone. There we go. Oh, have I got it? Got it. We'll get those out of the way. Brackets out of the way. That's out of the way. Okay. I'm going to get my little zip tool. I could use a electric grinder with a bigger wheel on it, but I don't need to. I got a smaller one here. There. These. I'm just going to turn my mic off so you don't get the screaming sensation, but you can still see the sparking. Hang on. There we go, that's done. Compressor didn't even fire up. I'm just going to use a screwdriver here. This is a hammer through screwdriver. It's got metal all the way through it, which is handy. I use it for a small chisel or for this. One. There's two halves. 3 halves and a washer. Not sure if I'll get that one. There we go, that's off. Now we can just pop these out, hopefully. That one's out. That one's loose. There we go, spindles on the floor. Yeah, that's pretty rotten. Get rid of all this mess, we'll throw it down the hole, nobody will ever find it down there. We'll find that spindle. Where'd it go? Here it is. We got her. That one's pretty bad. So, second verse, same as the first. We're just gonna beat it apart on a vise and beat it back together on a vise with new bearings in it. Alright, I'll show you the assembly on this one. This was the bottom plate. This was under the deck. New bearings are pressed in already. I've already done that and pre-oiled them or pre-greased them. I take the seal out and I pack it full of grease and put the seal back in because they don't come with enough grease in them. So let's get it back together. So shaft, little shield. Oh yeah. Oh, it's got a burr in it. Enough. This should actually just slide on now. Okay, yep. Make a liar of me. That's on. Then underneath that was our bottom plate, which was this one. Our top plate, which was this one, this used to have studs in it. Now it doesn't. It's going to have bolts in it when we get there. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I will put 3 bolts in there to make sure it stays lined up where it needs to be. 5/16? Yeah. That will do. That will do. Because those have to be lined up for it to go through the deck. But we're just going to put them in there loose just so it doesn't turn all over the place on us. Or if it does, it'll just be a tiny little bit and we'll be able to get it back where it needs to go. Okay. Snug, snug, snuggish. So now what we want to do is we want to press on the center of the bearing. We're going to try not to press on the outside so much. We're going to press in the center. Can you see? We're going to use a couple of things to do that. First, well, we're going to try the pulley first. Because the pulley fits on top of that bearing just perfectly. The idea is we're going to push everything down together. I want to wreck that pulley. So put a socket on the top and start beating on it. It's very loud. We don't want the pulley splines to get damaged in there though. So we're going to put our spacer in there. And keep beating. Oh, it dropped. Pulley splines lined up, thankfully. Keep going. Getting there. That's home. I heard it bang together and the hammer bounced. So that's all the way down. The 2 bearings are together. These plates did separate a little bit, but it's just because the bearing came out of the plate a little. That's fine because once we bolt all this together, actually it's just squishing down with my hands too, but once we get it bolted all together, it's going to squeeze everything. So that's that. I'm going to get it bolted on the deck like this first because the pulley's in the way. So we can take these out now. Our plates are held in alignment while we were putting it together. We're going to take these bolts out and we'll use the same bolts and nuts to install it in the deck. Which is over there. One bolt. Oh, I buzzed all the splines down with the wire wheel on the grinder. So that will give us nice clean splines that we can put anti-seize on so nothing seizes in there. I don't know, I may never work on this machine again, but somebody's gonna. So we'll make it nice for the next guy. You never know, it could be me. Could be. 1/2-inch wrench for underneath there. 1/2-inch socket on the top. One, two, three. That's a thing of beauty right there. Yeah. I'll take those nuts off, put that on there. It gives it a little more strength. That's that. Let's get some anti-seize on those splines down in here. Not gonna hurt anything. Make it better for the next guy. We need our spacer, which does not go between the bearings. It can't. There's no room, not enough room for it. Pulley, our brake plate, lock washer, nut. Well, that's all right. Here we go. Nice and quiet. Just gotta put this back down. 1/2-inch again. And this side's done. Pretty painless. Washer on top, nut on top of that. Well, it helps when you put it on there properly. That's not proper. Goes that way. You guys are supposed to be watching me. Make sure I'm not doing things wrong. Another spot. There's the other spot. And a washer. And a nut. Tight. Tight. Now it's done. Back you up. We are going to be replacing this belt because it is dry rotted, and judging by the shape of it, literally the shape of it, the triangle shape of it, it needs a new one. So I have one in stock. We will be throwing that on there. And I'm not painting this machine. I'm not going to paint the rest of it. I might just leave this. Might not bother painting it. So the splines underneath for the blade adapters are clean. I still just got to clean these out with a little bit of a wire brush. Brush them out. And then when I put the blades on, we'll be able to just slide those on with anti-seize and they won't get stuck. Well, I guess that's our next step. We can I can flip it over, put the blade adapters and the blades on there, get our new belt situated and rehang it. Sounds like a plan to me. Okay, so I scraped about 13.5 acres worth of grass out from underneath that thing. And went to put my blades on that I had for it, and they don't fit. That's great. So I did have a pair of blades for a 38-inch deck. This is a 36, remember. I had a pair of blades for a 38. So what I did was I grabbed my chop saw and I trimmed the ends down so they cleared the housing. They cleared just fine. And then I trimmed just a little bit off each side until it fit all the way around perfect. And then I made another blade the same length. And then I put them together in the center here, and they were hitting. So back and forth, a lot of trial and error. I got the ends ground down so they just clear. I got an 1/8 of an inch clearance there, 1/8 of an inch clearance there. Same here, same here. They're all the same. Once I had the clearances done, then I put them on the bench there, and I balanced them by taking a little bit more off of one end or the other, whatever was required to balance the blade. So we managed to get it to work. Anyways, these blades will work just fine. They're off another, it's a riding mower blade. It's off another deck. It's just a low lift. That's fine because this doesn't have a bagger on it. And it's a low profile deck. So that's that. I have the part number for these blades that actually are used on this deck. And that blade is not available through my suppliers. So the hell with it. I made something else work. I'm already waiting on a coil. I don't want to be waiting on everything. So we're going to call that one done and dusted. I wanted to get underneath there and scrape that crap out of there anyways. So it's good to go. I gotta shovel out my floor. I got all this grass everywhere. So we can slide that animal under there partially. Something on the deck over there on the other side. These are gonna do just fine. Yeah, that's where we're at so far. I'll have to go out to the shed, grab the belt so I can put the covers back on. There's just a couple of metal guards that go over there. I'll grab the new belt, I'll get the covers on there, and then we'll get it slid under. Okay, so it's a couple of days later. I got the coil in, got it installed, gapped, and I did a quick check, and we got spark. So it was coil. I had to rewire the switch, change all the pinouts, make it work the way it's supposed to be. So that works now. And that's it. The oil's still dirty and filthy, but I like to get them running first. Make sure there's enough oil in it to run it. Get them running first, let it warm up. Once it's warmed up, it gives us a chance to tune the carburetor, and then shut it off, dump all the oil, and put fresh in it. So I've already put a splash of non-ethanol fuel in there, treated with seafoam already. I haven't even turned the tap on. Fuel filter's still empty. So let's see what happens. Give her a full choke, a little bit of throttle. Fuel on. Oh, she's filling up. Let that fuel bowl fill up for a little bit. New spark plug in there. Okay, let's crank her, see what happens. Oh, that's a good sign. A little less choke. Come on, throttle. This thing runs awesome. No hesitation, no sputter. It runs good. Nice. Nice, nice. 12 horse brakes, hard to beat. Clean carb, new coil. Yeah, runs great. I'll let it warm up nice and warm. I'm going to pull the oil out of that and we're going to flush it. Nah, it's not that dirty. I'm not going to flush it. I'll just refill it with some fresh straight 30 because that's what's going to go in it. Because it's a summer engine, and I like to run straight 30 in them because it protects a little better. So, all right, I'm just going to dump the oil, and we got new belts to put on yet. I got a new belt on the deck. It's mostly there. It's not hooked on the engine yet. We do have to do the upper and lower drive belts on this as well. They're both toast, so they both need to be done. So, I'm just going to change oil, and we'll carry on with something else on it. Okay, so we've let it warm up. We got the carb tuned, idle set. Thing runs awesome. The next step was to change the oil, which I did, dumped it out, put some fresh SA30 in it, and that was all good. So the next job to tackle was the drive belts. We had to do upper and lower drive belts. And let me tell you, there was a lot of colorful language. These are not nice to do. Not suitable for video. So I did them. It's a common setup on these MTDs, but this one here was just ignorant to change. There was no room for anything. Ended up having to take all kinds of pulleys and stuff out of the way just to get the belts to fit. So managed to do that. Got both belts replaced. Just word of warning. Always use OEM or OEM replacement belts for these shiv pulley style transaxles. What do they call it? Transmatic or something? I forget what they call it. But for example, if the belt says it's 5/8 by 43, if you run a normal, average, just standard 5/8 by 43 belt on it, it will not shift properly. It has to have the 5/8 is your height, 43 is your circumference, but on a standard belt, this ratio, this aspect is very deep, and on the MTD belts, it's actually quite narrow, and that's to make it go into the pulley in the proper depth to make the drives work. So anyways, they're done. I put OEM replacements on it. So what's next on this? Well, we can get it cleaned up and, whoa, what the? Yeah, that was the last thing to do, actually, just clean it up. So we gave her a scuff down. I got the deck back underneath there. The bearings are all new. The blades are all new. Drive belt for the deck is new. 2 new drive belts on for the chassis. Paint. Yeah, it's tuned up. The thing runs awesome. Tires are still holding air. Excellent machine. Got to get a battery for it. It's an oddball, weird Group 12 battery. It's like a motorcycle battery. It's not typical. I don't usually carry them, but I've got one on order. But yeah, I think it looks out pretty good. It's yellow because I ran out of red paint. And because one guy I know asked me if I only know how to paint red paint. So that one's for Pat. It's yellow. Thanks for joining me, guys, on this video. Restifying, refurbishing, tinkering on old lawnmowers. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. If you do subscribe, give the bell a dingle. It'll notify you when I upload new videos. And until the next one, take care.